Tonight, we're in Israel, where the war in the Middle East continues to expand on land, air, and at sea.
America is winning, decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy.
U.S. officials say Iran's forces are deeply depleted, but that the war is still in its early days. The conflict showing more signs of widening tonight, a threat to a NATO ally, and an Iranian warship sunk by a U.S. torpedo.
Come to my house, please.
Plus, in northern Israel, rocket fire and missile strikes have communities on edge.
This is what happens all the time.
The escalating fight against Hezbollah in Lebanon.
And here in Canada, a CBC News investigation pushes for accountability on the hidden dangers of radon gas and its links to lung cancer.
The Canadian standard is really failing to protect Canadians.
Why some say Canada's guidelines are way too lax. Plus, a bright flash and boom above BC.
This is a rocky object that entered our atmosphere at a high speed.
What caused the fireball that lit up the night sky?
From CBC News, this is The National with Erica Johnson and Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault in Tel Aviv.
Thanks for joining us. We're in Tel Aviv, in Israel intensifying its attacks across its northern border into Lebanon, one of several fronts now in the war against Iran. The federal government announcing more plans tonight to get Canadians out of the region. So many are in harm's way. And again, across Lebanon, buildings and streets erupting from Israeli strikes as this country ramps up its fight against the militant group Hezbollah. And in Iran, the reported death toll has surged past 1,000 as the United States hammers targets on land and at sea, sinking an Iranian warship. The message from the Pentagon: this isn't meant to be a fair fight. The U.S. Secretary of War stating his military is, quote, punching the Islamic Republic while it's down. Katie Nicholson begins our coverage from Washington tonight on the triumphant tone as the administration tries to put doubts about the war to rest.
Long-range precision missiles rocket into the sky to strike deep inside Iran.
America is winning, decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy.
The Pentagon head projecting confidence that the U.S. has the situation well in hand, offering as proof a periscopic view of the U.S. torpedoing an Iranian warship off the coast of Sri Lanka.
Quiet death.
As for concerns the U.S. may be burning through its weapons stockpiles too quickly, Pete Hegseth batted that away.
Iran cannot outlast us.
From the sea, the USS Ford has continued to project combat power here.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff more restrained.
I know there have been a lot of questions about munitions. We have sufficient precision munitions for the task at hand, both on the offense and defense.
We're winning this fight.
On the White House's social media page, a message of turbocharged power. As the White House tried to counter confusion over its shifting accounts of the decision to launch the war, now suggesting it was a gut instinct from Donald Trump.
The president had a feeling, again, based on fact, that Iran was going to strike the United States, was going to strike our assets in the region, and he made a determination to launch Operation Epic Fury based on all of those reasons.
Trump himself echoing the message that the war was both successful and necessary.
When crazy people have nuclear weapons, bad things happen. So we're in very good shape now.
In the Senate, there were hours of debate.
You want to know where Trump's priorities lie? He has clearly put more thought and care and planning into this new White House ballroom than he has with the war with Iran.
Before Republicans killed a resolution to curtail Trump's war powers.
The motion to discharge is not approved.
The second vote in the House likely to meet a similar fate.
It would kneecap our own forces, and it would take the ability of the U.S. military and the commander-in-chief away from completing this critical mission to keep everybody safe.
And Adrian, adding to concerns about weapon stockpiles, the heads of America's biggest defense contractors reportedly set to meet with the White House Friday to discuss speeding up weapons production.
And Katie, these weapons are obviously extremely costly.
Yeah, I mean, just take some of the high-altitude anti-ballistic missiles the U.S. is using. Just one missile is almost $13 million U.S. a pop versus those relatively cheap Iranian drones, maybe $30,000, $40,000 each. Worth noting that in January, Trump proposed doubling the U.S. military budget to $1.5 trillion in 2027.
All right. Thank you, Katie. That is Katie Nicholson in Washington. And Washington is now pledging its full support for Turkey following an apparent Iranian missile attack on the NATO ally. We are also issuing our warnings in the clearest possible terms, said Turkey's president, to ensure that similar incidents do not occur again. NATO air defenses shot down an Iranian missile before it entered Turkish airspace. That's the first time it's been attacked in this war. Iran's drones and missiles continue to target the region, though. For a second day, smoke is rising over an oil industry port in the United Arab Emirates, and there are reports of a second strike at the Saudi oil refinery in Ras Tanura after it was shut down by a previous attack on Monday. In Iran, the regime remains defiant, people afraid, and as Margaret Evans shows us, even those who want change are wary as the price in blood and chaos grows.
Signs of life beneath the rubble. A rescue operation in Kerman, another Iranian city facing the wrath of U.S.-Israeli attacks. They've already taken a devastating toll. More than 1,000 civilians killed since the start of the war, according to a U.S.-based human rights group. At the University of Tehran, there is now a memorial for those killed in a strike on a girls' school in the city of Minab. Iran says more than 160 dead, many of them children. Of course they've hit military targets, says this resident. That's the basis of the war they started. But they didn't only hit military targets. The U.S. says it's investigating the incident, denying it deliberately hits civilian targets. The funeral planned for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, killed on day one of the war, has now been postponed, along with the final decision on Iran's next supreme leader. Israel has said he too will be a legitimate target. Iran's ruling clerics are issuing dire warnings to any citizen seen to support the U.S.-Israeli campaign. They are on the enemy's side and must be dealt with decisively and severely, says the head of the judiciary, Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejeye. Iranians who want regime change are divided over how it should be delivered, especially as the bombing intensifies, says an Iranian woman in touch with us. I'm getting more scared every day, she says, but I'm still not at a point to say I wish this wouldn't have happened. Whether we like it or not, everything has a price. The Iranian regime is fighting on several fronts, including the mountains of northern Iraq, where Iraqi Kurds are sheltering Iranian Kurds long opposed to the Iranian regime. An Iranian drone strike hit the camp, says Rostam Jahangiri. Our hope is for a democratic Iran, he says, where the rights of all nations are protected.
Adrian, there are reports that the CIA is or has been preparing to support the Iranian Kurdish opposition groups if they were to launch some kind of rebellion, but we can't confirm them.
And so far, Margaret, there's no confirmation either that they have actually started a ground operation.
That's right. Neither by the Iraqi Kurds, who are used to working with the Americans and are hosting the Iranian Kurdish opposition groups, nor by the Iranian Kurds themselves, who are the ones who would be supported by the CIA. But denials thus far tonight.
All right. Thank you. That is Margaret Evans in Amman, Jordan. And there's growing fear in Lebanon tonight as the country is pulled deeper into this war. The escalation began Monday when Hezbollah launched drones towards northern Israel, triggering retaliatory strikes that have now killed more than 70 people. I spent some time in northern Israel, not far from a swath of southern Lebanon, ordered to evacuate today. Israeli officials warn anyone who doesn't move north in Lebanon is putting their lives at risk as violence intensifies, and not just near the border, but also in Beirut.
Lebanon's southern coast and Lebanon's capital city. This war with Iran is now firmly a war with Hezbollah, too. More than 70 dead since Monday, according to the health ministry. Israel maintains Iran's proxy is the target of the airstrikes. But wary civilians in Beirut are caught in the way.
I'm angry with Hezbollah and Israel and Iran. But Hezbollah more, you know why? Because they are Lebanese. They are hurting us. They are hurting our homes, our children.
Desperate to avoid being dragged deeper into war, Lebanon's army banned Hezbollah military activity, is arresting militants. But will that matter? Hezbollah's leader vowing to battle what he called Israeli-American aggression. We will not surrender. We will defend ourselves with our capabilities and our faith, Naim Qassam said, no matter the sacrifices. So, escalation. The Israel Defense Forces releasing footage of its troops fighting inside Lebanon and issuing new warnings to residents of southern Lebanon. You must leave, go north of the Litani River, is the IDF order in Arabic. Warnings heeded, people are on the move with no sense of what is coming, whether the warnings mean a ground invasion is next. Across the border, northern Israel is now squarely under attack from both Hezbollah and Iran. And some are worryingly used to the threats.
It's a problem. You don't run to the shelter, and it's not good.
So you're almost afraid because you're not afraid enough.
Yeah, it's not good, yeah.
This is Sagalit Bar, a medic, constantly on the move now, bothered by how accustomed she is to danger.
So there's an alert that went out this morning.
We wanted to talk about those warnings from the IDF when the war barged into the conversation.
What does this tell you is about to happen?
We have come to my house, please. And
so experienced, she heard the rockets before the sirens. The safe room is her daughter's bedroom.
This is what happens all the time. You go outside, you start to think that everything is okay because quiet, and you get and if you have something like that, it means that it's come from Lebanon, not from Iran.
Because there was no time to alert you on the phone.
Yeah.
So how many minutes do you get from when you hear a siren? How many seconds are you talking about?
Not 30 seconds.
Imagine the speed of these dangers and the speed of this war spread. Everything about this moment is shockingly fast.
Ottawa has announced options for those trying to leave the region, including some charter flights with reserved seats for Canadians. David Thurton joins me now. So, David, we heard from the Foreign Affairs Minister with those details earlier this evening. Can you walk us through them?
Adrian, more than 2,000 Canadians across the region have asked the federal government for help getting out. We are now getting more information on which countries and the kinds of numbers we're talking about. 1,171 in the United Arab Emirates, 237 in Qatar, 164 in Lebanon, 93 in Israel, and 74 in Iran. And Ottawa says it's helping Canadians get out through 3 ways: organizing a limited number of chartered flights, booking blocks of seats on commercial flights, and through land transportation like buses. In some places, the airspace is partially opened. On Wednesday, 75 passengers flew out of Beirut with the Canadian government's help. In other spots, the skies are completely closed, and in that case, the only option is by road, which comes with some risks.
While we have no indication of roads being targeted by Iranian missiles, when they are intercepted overhead, debris can fall on the road below. Canadians should, no matter which country they are in, only travel when it is safe to do so and follow local advice.
What other advice, David, is being offered to Canadians?
The minister urged Canadians to listen to those warnings, to shelter in place, staying in buildings, she said, while missiles are flying overhead. You know, it's certainly frightening when that happens, but it is the safer option because when they're intercepted, dangerous debris could come crashing onto the roads.
Indeed. That is David Thurton reporting in Ottawa. Thanks, David. In Australia tonight, Prime Minister Mark Carney was asked about Canada's position on the war and whether he could definitively say that Canada would not get involved in the conflict. Here's how he responded.
You've asked a fundamental hypothetical in a conflict that can spread very broadly. Today's events, recent events, point to that. So one can never categorically rule out participation. We will stand by our allies when it makes sense.
We'll have more on his comments on the war and his address tonight to Australia's Parliament coming up. This war is also disrupting energy exports from the Middle East, and that could push other countries to ramp up production. Anis Hadari now on whether Canada could step in to sell more oil and gas.
As conflict blocks Middle Eastern trade routes, Canadian energy could see increased demand.
We are even more important today than we were before the weekend.
But can Canada replace oil and gas from the Gulf states?
And the answer is yes, it can provide a small degree. It's the amount. Can it in any way contribute in a large or significantly meaningful way to what is being lost? The answer is no, it can't today.
There are possibilities over a far longer period of time if there's additional pipeline capacity to Tidewater. Expensive railways can also make a big difference, but to justify that, oil needs an even higher price.
So I don't think oil is particularly expensive right now. Even with this is a shock, obviously it's gone up, but these are still, historically, I would say on the low end of prices. These are not high prices.
Canada wasn't able to substantially replace lost energy exports after Russia invaded Ukraine, a region that could be a factor this time.
So it's a luxury to have had Russia out of the mix. When push comes to shove, you will start to see countries, turning up their nose, but importing some Russian supply.
About 20% of the world's oil moves through the Strait of Hormuz. If that stays blocked, opening up existing pipelines and trains in North America won't cut it.
There are some minor things that could certainly be considered by individual companies and governments that can support a bit of increased production to fill that void. But over the long term, you need to build fairly major pieces of infrastructure.
Without new infrastructure, Canada could export about 250,000 more oil barrels a day, but that would take a few months. And it's far less than even 1% of total global production. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
So we'll have more on this evolving war later in the show, including my conversation with Janice Stein.
The fact that the missiles that are being fired, they're fewer, doesn't tell us what the Iranian government is holding in reserve.
What to watch for in the days and maybe weeks ahead, coming up.
Plus, tonight's other top stories, including Prime Minister Mark Carney's address to Australian Parliament. His message just ahead, and
Canada's radon guideline is due for an update.
Why some say current advice on radon exposure is failing to protect Canadians. Plus, the fireball and sonic boom sparking speculation in BC. We're back in 2. Prime Minister Mark Carney says he won't categorically rule out Canadian participation in the Iran war, saying Canada will always stand by its allies. He made those comments in Australia, where he's continuing his Indo-Pacific tour. Catherine Cullen has more from the Australian capital.
The Prime Minister of Canada.
In Australia's Parliament, Mark Carney pitched his plan for a path forward in a time of change.
The world will always be driven by great powers, but it can also be shaped by middle powers that trust each other and act with speed and purpose.
Doing that, he says, can help create a stronger future.
The nations that are trusted and can work together will be quicker to the punch.
He offered a list of ways that could work for Canada and Australia, announcing more collaboration on critical minerals, defense, and artificial intelligence. His call comes amid growing turmoil around Iran.
You've said that Canada will not participate in U.S. military action in Iran.
So can you definitively say that's going to remain the case, even if hostilities broaden, escalate, or are prolonged?
One can never categorically rule out participation. We will stand by our allies when it makes sense. We will always defend Canadians. We will always stand by and defend our allies when called upon.
The night before, Carney told a think tank audience Canada has long wanted an end to the Iranian regime, but says one question is about the durability of what comes next.
You can't just order up regime change, and we're seeing that play out.
He was also asked to explain his overall approach to Donald Trump.
Respect, but not obsequiousness, right? He is more interested in your viewpoint on various things in private, and that creates an ability to work through things. But, it's not easy, to be clear. It's not easy.
Challenges that will continue to test Carney's vision for this global moment. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Canberra.
Canada's artificial intelligence minister says he made several demands to OpenAI CEO Sam Altman in a meeting about the company not notifying police about safety concerns raised with the Tumbler Ridge shooter's account.
We want Canadians to be in that safety office to assess Canadian threats, not Americans assessing Canadian threats. Canadian experts in Canadian law, experts in Canadian mental health. He agreed to do that. He expressed to me horror and responsibility in general for not flagging. This is why they're making changes.
Solomon says OpenAI has also agreed to look back at previous safety flags under a new threat assessment. The company notified the RCMP about the shooter's ChatGPT account after last month's shooting. Solomon says he supports the BC Premier's request for an apology from Altman. David Eby and Altman are set to meet on Thursday. A U.S. federal judge says companies that paid tariffs later struck down by the Supreme Court are legally entitled to refunds. This marks another legal blow for the Trump administration. The federal government collected more than $130 billion in those tariffs deemed unconstitutional last month. Experts say Washington could be on the hook for refunds worth as high as $175 billion. It's not yet clear how they'll be issued.
5 days into the U.S.-Israel war with Iran, we're checking in tonight on where things stand.
We are still at the beginning, or that's certainly what the Americans are saying.
Plus, a closer look at the U.S. President's Board of Peace and its plan for the future of Gaza.
It can be developed as a new Mediterranean Riviera with 200 hotels.
It's even obscene when you consider, first of all, the level of destruction.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
Some researchers say federal guidelines around radon gas are failing Canadians and putting their health in danger. Just weeks ago, Lauren Pelly revealed that millions of Canadian homes have high levels of radon, an invisible radioactive gas that can cause lung cancer. Tonight, she looks at the concern that the risk is being downplayed.
So we're expecting this to be going down after Arthur's done.
Maureen Hayes decided to install a radon mitigation system this winter.
I was definitely concerned, and the government issues these guidelines, but they're different internationally.
For more than a year, readings in her Ottawa home showed a level below Canada's threshold for taking action, but also higher than some other global guidelines. Canada's threshold to take action on home radon levels is 200 becquerels per cubic meter, a measurement referring to the amount of radioactive gas present in the air. That guideline is double the maximum threshold recommended by the World Health Organization.
Canada's radon guideline is due for an update.
This environmental advocate says having a higher guideline could discourage many Canadians from mitigating their homes.
The Canadian standard that recommends action only above 200 is really failing to protect Canadians.
Breathing in radon gas can cause lung cancer, and data shows close to half of all detached houses in Canada have levels above the WHO's guideline. Health Canada says the department encourages Canadians to reduce their radon levels as much as possible, since there is no safe level of exposure. But at this time, there are no plans to change Canada's guidelines. Some scientists say more research is needed before updating our approach. This team is studying whether the risk of radon is rising thanks to added factors like wildfire smoke.
The dirtier the air, the greater the dose from the radon.
Cancer touches nearly every family in Canada.
Millions in funding was announced last week to support that research alongside other studies to prevent cancer. Health Canada told us the findings could help inform future radon recommendations. In the meantime, homeowners like Hayes have to decide what level of this cancer-causing gas they're willing to live with. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back to Tel Aviv as the U.S.-Israel-Iran war enters its 6th day. Calls for restraint amid some fresh attacks and some counterstrikes.
Iran cannot outlast us.
Not even a week in, this war is rapidly expanding across the Middle East as Iran retaliates against attacks from the U.S. and Israel.
They are helping perhaps create a case for Donald Trump to stay in this fight longer than he wanted to.
We're taking stock of what has happened so far and what might come next in a conflict that threatens to reshape an entire region. So it's in moments of global spasms like these that we really like to turn to Janice Stein, one of Canada's most trusted analysts. We spoke earlier this evening, and as you will see, eventually our conversation was cut short by yet another alert about incoming missiles. Janice, we're 5 days into this war, started by the U.S. and Israel. Are we still at the beginning? Like, where are we in this war?
We are still at the beginning, or that's certainly what the Americans are saying, and that's certainly the way the Iranians are behaving. And Adrian, you're seeing it get wider, and you're seeing it escalate as well up the ladder. But in the region, I think that's important for listeners to know. It is deepening and widening, but it is still contained to the region.
You know, you talk about the scope of it, and it really can seem dizzying. And it seems striking as an observer that Iran can not only still fire its missiles and drones, but do so with some precision. It still has some targets. How long can it keep doing that? Because there's also this perception here that the pace of those strikes is slowing down a bit.
That's the big question, Adrian, and I think no one knows the answer for two reasons. Some of the missile launchers, especially for the big, important ballistic missiles, are hidden, and getting an accurate count is really hard. But I think there's a second factor, that some of these may be underground, and it is really difficult for intelligence to get an accurate count. And the fact that the missiles that are being fired against the Gulf and against Israel, there are fewer, doesn't tell us what the Iranian government is holding in reserve. This is a war of survival for them.
So if it's a war of survival, what ends it? I mean, there's so many different reports. There's one, for example, about the Americans, unconfirmed reports, working with Kurdish fighters. If that proves to be true, are we talking about boots on the ground like this that ends it? Or does somehow a back channel between Iran and the U.S. end it?
You know, let me just say a word about the Kurds here, because there would be boots on the ground, but it's very difficult, Adrian, for me to think of any way that they would be a match for Iran's regular army, for its military. And this is really playing with fire, because these are minorities that are exposed, and this is tearing the ethnic fabric of Iran. So what ends this? A back channel. And when, more likely, when the United States says, okay, enough, we've degraded their capability, we've actually taken out their supreme leader, and even if another supreme leader is chosen, as certainly will be, that doesn't tell us much about the successor. Look what happened in Saudi Arabia when a prince took over for a king. There were significant changes.
What's important to watch for in the days ahead? Because I think people are lurching from moment to moment here, and it's hard to know what stage of the war is next.
So I'm really focused, Adrian, on the Revolutionary Guard. Do we hear unconfirmed rumors, any stories of Revolutionary Guards that say, okay, this is enough. We do not want to see our country torn apart. There has to be a change at the top, and we'll start back-channel negotiations with the United States. If we hear even a whiff of that, and we have not yet heard that, that would be a signal that the factions within the Revolutionary Guard are making a different calculus. They would want to preserve the privileged position they have in the Iranian economy. I don't rule that out, Adrian, and it's the most likely way this will end in the short term.
One last question, very briefly, if I can. A spokesperson for Qatar's foreign ministry says all the red lines have already been crossed. What could these Gulf states actually do about that? Because red lines get crossed all the time.
They do, but boy, what I'm hearing from the Gulf and from people I know in the Gulf, they are really angry, Adrian. Saudi Arabia has a very capable Air Force that has been supplied by the United States, top end. Iran cannot defend its own airspace. Its skies are open, and there are missiles in several countries in the Gulf. They're holding back to wait to see how long. But
Janice, you have to forgive me. Speaking of missiles, we have an alert here that there are some incoming now, so we're going to have to go. Janice Stein, as always, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Stay safe.
And take a look for yourself. We left the camera rolling. This is what happened after we took shelter. You can see a number of interceptors there rising up to meet the incoming missiles, one of several alerts we've been getting tonight. We're still trying to figure out the extent of what happened. Now, while the world's attention has turned to Iran, just southwest of here in Gaza, the situation remains desperate. A representative of Trump's Board of Peace says aid has begun to trickle in for the first time since the launch of the military strikes against Iran. But the need is immense, and there are many who fear that the Board of Peace isn't up to the task. Ashley Fraser looks at why.
So just over a year ago, US President Donald Trump said he wanted to make Gaza
the Riviera of the Middle East,
and even posted this AI video. Since then, Trump has created the Board of Peace, an international entity designed to oversee his Gaza peace plan. At the inaugural Board of Peace meeting a few weeks ago, a plan for Gaza was unveiled, showing high-rises and luxury-looking homes built with the help of foreign investment. So is Trump creating the Riviera of the Middle East with his Board of Peace?
It can be developed as a new Mediterranean Riviera with 200 hotels and potential islands.
It's even obscene to talk about these fancy buildings when you consider, first of all, the level of destruction on the ground in Gaza.
That's Khalil Jashan, Executive Director at the Arab Center in Washington, D.C.
The fact that the whole population of Gaza has been so impoverished to basically talk about these types of condos and fancy facilities to be built for profit in Gaza, for whom? The average Gazan today probably makes less than $500-600 a year.
Almost everybody's accepted, and the ones that haven't will be.
So far, we've seen at least 27 countries commit to joining the Board of Peace, including Egypt, Hungary, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. Some of them paying $1 billion to stay on the board indefinitely. But almost no NATO allies of the US have joined and have rejected the invitation, including France, UK, and Germany.
Are you bringing in outside actors and investments because you want to help Gaza, because you want to help Palestinians, or because you want to help yourselves?
Julie Norman, an associate fellow on the Middle East, agrees that the new plans highlight an externally devised vision of Gaza.
This is not something that people want to be, have the Strip written off as a real estate project. They don't want external actors, regional or international, just using it as kind of an investment playground.
Now, according to the plans, the Board of Peace is organized into a hierarchy of committees. The Executive Committee is seen as the decision-making group headed by Donald Trump. None of those members are Palestinian and include private and global financial leaders. Below that is the Gaza Executive Board. None of those are Palestinian either. followed by the National Administration of Gaza, which is made up of Palestinian technocrats.
They have rich experience with reconstruction and development. They are the right people for the job, but they should have been at the top of the pyramid, not at the bottom of it.
But the makeup of that committee is an issue for some.
The fact that they had no say in terms of its membership and, more importantly, its mandate, but worse yet, the committee still isn't able to actually physically step foot in Gaza. It's having to operate from Egypt.
Tahani Mustafa is a visiting fellow at the European Council of Foreign Relations. Do you think they hold much power?
They hold very little power.
Now, the board says they've raised $7 billion in funding for the reconstruction of Gaza, and Donald Trump will provide another $10 billion. But it's not clear how that $10 billion in funding is being used.
It's this kind of moment where we're seeing these announcements of big investments of reconstruction, but not actually shoring up the organizations that are already there on the ground, and in fact undermining them at a time when they need that help the most.
Plus, Trump's role as inaugural chairman of the board has experts concerned. The charter says he can elect an executive board, a successor, has veto power, and can dissolve the Board of Peace.
Authoritarian control of President Trump as chairman for life. I don't know how that is going to work, practically speaking.
The board has become, again, a vanity project for President Trump's own power, where it effectively is trying to turn Gaza into more of a real estate project than an actual political one.
So is there any hope for this plan to bring some form of reconstruction to Gaza?
The people of Gaza deserve that after being through hell on earth for more than 2 years, but this is not a well-meaning, viable rescue plan.
This is really the only game in town. And so I think right now, many of us, as dystopian as it's coming across, I think many of us are just trying to find workable ways to make this actually somehow provide something tangible for Palestinians on the ground.
Now, UN experts have condemned Trump's Board of Peace approach, stating that Gaza's reconstruction and future should be in the hands of Palestinians. Well, that's all for me from here in Tel Aviv tonight. Now, it's back to Erica in Vancouver.
Thanks, Adrian. Nepal's Gen Z protesters fought and died demanding change. But will they get it when the country goes to the polls?
We understand how we want the world to see Nepal.
The new popular leader against the old guard, breaking down the key contenders. Next. Six months ago, a Gen Z-led deadly uprising toppled Nepal's government. But to get the change they fought for, they must now turn protest into political will.
This time there won't be any change. Like I won't be disappointed toward any political party or leader. I'll be disappointed toward the citizen of my country.
We're on the ground looking at what's at stake as the old guard battles a new popular party. Our South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji traveled to Nepal and spoke with voters, including one injured in the protest last September, about that moment and the change they seek in Thursday's election.
Kathmandu, September 8th, 2025. Chaos as shots rang out from police and protesters collapsed to the ground. The next day, an explosion of anger that students were targeted with live bullets. Nepal's capital left burning, the government overthrown in less than 48 hours.
Now, 6 months later, you can see how calm the streets are in front of this palace still being reconstructed as the country prepares to vote for a new government.
More than 70 people, many of them student protesters, died in the uprising. The trigger was a social media ban, but the demonstrations quickly tapped into widespread rage against the country's weak economy and rampant corruption and nepotism among Nepal's political elite.
So the main question for many here is, Nepal's Gen Z protesters fought so hard for change, but will they get it? See, the old guard is very much present in this election. It's a battle between a longtime political heavyweight and his young challenger.
KP Sharma Oli, prime minister 4 times already, was chased from power last September, and yet he's campaigning again. Appealing to small groups of supporters in his stronghold in eastern Nepal. Our comrade KP gave us roads and development. This longtime supporter says he's struggled for us. The Gen Z protesters will not build up our country. We have to help KP Oli win, this man says. We only trust him, not the other one. The other one is Balendra Shah, known simply as Balin. A 35-year-old former rapper whose rhymes criticize the ruling elite. After a pivot to politics, he became Kathmandu's popular mayor. His rallies are big, loud. His truck consistently swarmed. The Balin wave, as analysts call it, clear in many parts of the country, particularly among Nepal's young voters. With 46% of the population under 24, they are key in this election.
He's a modern person and he relates to the most of the youth in our generation. He understands how we want the world to see Nepal.
But still, their hope that Balin will be elected is tempered with caution.
After this election, if this time there won't be any change, like I personally, I won't be disappointed toward any political party or leader. I'll be disappointed toward the citizen of my country.
The wave of support for a new face, not just confined to the young, says this boisterous group of over 60s. We've seen what the old parties have done, nothing. So we're voting for the bell this time, Dr. Shakya says, referring to Balin Shah's party symbol.
We're heading to a village a few hours east of the Kathmandu Valley because that's what most people are doing, going home to vote. But we actually had to stop because this is one of the first times that we've seen so many campaign flags out, all of the parties represented. Basically, the enthusiasm for this election is much more prevalent here in Nepal's villages.
Among those heading home, Madan Karki, back in his village for the first time since he was shot by his own country's police during the uprising.
This is the first time you're back in your village since your injury. How do you feel coming back? It's good, huh?
The peace here, a stark contrast to the panic of that moment 6 months ago. His friends dragging him bleeding to an ambulance while Madan felt like his heart had stopped pumping, his head spinning, ready to die for change to come to Nepal. His family showers him with love, anxious to hear about his injuries. The hand that still burns with pain and can't hold any weight after his nerves were permanently damaged by a bullet wound. We were protesting for our country, but we were shot like terrorists, he says. The even-tempered 25-year-old can't contain his anger against Nepal's old guard. Oli doesn't have the moral right to stand in this election, Madan says. Even if the politician has denied ordering police to shoot the protesters, Madan holds him responsible. Nepal desperately needs a change and stability, his mother Juna also quietly insists. I felt like the whole world was crumbling down on me when my son was shot, she says. How can that be for nothing? But the fear lingers that the old guard is poised to reclaim their thrones, with many in rural Nepal used to voting for the same party their parents voted for, even if Nepal's frustrated young want much more from their fragile democracy.
Coming up, a meteor's sonic boom echoes across parts of southern British Columbia. That's next in our moment. This is the moment. A large meteor traveling through Earth's atmosphere lit up the sky and created a loud sonic boom across parts of southern BC. Many people in the area heard the blast, and some were able to capture the bright light on video. The large fireball makes our moment.
This is a rocky object that entered our atmosphere at a high speed at a certain angle, creating that bright flash and that sonic boom. A meteor bolide is what the terminology is. Because it is large enough, that means that that streak of light got brighter than your average meteor, and because it came in at a certain speed, we also got that sonic boom. Many people in the Fraser Valley, even down to Washington, either saw or heard this event. It is very similar to an earthquake. It's just that this shock wave originated from the sky and not the ground. It is very common. Our planet is being rained on by these rocks and metals in space every day. Just the size of the rock that entered our atmosphere that's creating a sonic boom, and also that it happened over a populated area where lots of people saw it, is a little bit of a rarity.
Now, this meteor is called a fireball because it is larger and brighter than the average ones that show up, which are apparently only pea-sized. But Michael says that before this one hit the ground, it would have shattered into a bunch of pieces no bigger than the size of a sugar cube. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Erica Johnson in Vancouver. Take care.